We
Hello.
are live with High
Try that again.
on Holly. Oh, god damn it.
I screwed that up.
We are live with High on Hollywood. I am your host, Austin Campbell.
And I'm your host, Clint Fleury.
And this is part 2 of our Nightmare on Elm Street discussion.
Nightmare?
Yeah.
Part 2, so we're going to be talking about 4, 5, and 6, which is the Dream Master, the Dream Child, and
Freddy's dead. Freddy's dead, as she says.
Freddy's dead.
What a way to go out.
Freddy's dead.
I was almost done. Beautiful. You just reminded me of that immediately. Sorry, why does this always happen? We go backwards first.
Because you know what? Freddy's Dead is a monumental success.
Came to life.
Oh, here, Alexa. You're screwing up the podcast, Alexa.
Like, Jesus Christ.
You're screwing things up. Okay?
That's fine. You know what? We're probably going to leave that in and I'm going to add some weird, wacky stuff to this.
We're haunted by Alexa. Under
Maybe it was Freddy.
Quarantine. Listening to us all.
Krueger!
Okay. Freddy's dead.
Freddy's dead.
You know what? Let's save that a little bit for the end.
Yeah.
Let's
That's what I'm saying.
let's
start talking about Alice, because you know what? I want you to start because I know you were a big fan of Alice in particular as a heroine in this series. And
I do like her. I think she's cute. She's gorgeous. And that's an actress that never ages. She doesn't age at all. She's still gorgeous.
Like a fine wine.
Yes. Yeah. She is.
I gotta
say. Gorgeous.
Lisa Wilcox.
Yeah. That's her name?
That's her name. That's what I'm like.
I was just thinking about Lisa, and I was thinking about Lisa from Part 2.
Yeah.
So
no, that is the actress.
She is my other favorite final girl in the Elm Street series is Lisa from Part 2.
I have to agree.
Let's talk about Alice. I thought she was like in the first one. She's nice and cute and innocent.
Mm-hmm.
She was the girl next door, and as she progressed in her storyline to Part 5, that storyline, I liked seeing her progressive story in those two narratives. Like I really did, but I want to stay to Part 4 because she embodied that teenage girl next door. She was still that final girl trope, and then she was given these powers. I think as a standout final girl, she carried that series into 4, 5, and 6.
Even though 6 went off the deep end in terms of continuity and all that shit and shaboodle, what I liked about 4 was Alice in particular, and I do there's something just really attractive about her as a character too. Not just Lisa Wilcox is gorgeous, and especially as this cute, naive Alice. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, like just be my wife, like right now. No, marry me.
Marry me.
If I had watched these, if I had been growing up in the 80s and 90s and watched these movies, like I would have been sending her letters every day. You know what I mean? No, not every day. Yeah. But like, at least every month, probably.
Probably. You'd become
letters.
Like a huge stalker, right? Just
God.
Every single turn that you go.
I'm sure she's had her fair share
not at
too,
all.
Though.
Oh, I'm sure. She had Freddy of all things. Freddy was stalking her throughout the entire, 2 films.
What I didn't like about 4 is this, we couldn't get Patricia Arquette back, so you know what? Let's just say fuck it and kill them all. Move on.
Like
I liked
what's going to happen. I mean,
because I liked Alice's character as like this like absorbent. She's the Dream Master, so she absorbs all of her friends' abilities.
She's the gatekeeper.
Yeah, she's the gatekeeper, which I thought was cool. But it felt like it was almost like Nightmare 3 like the alternate Nightmare 3. That's what it felt like. It felt like this is what like if you had cut out the characters from Dream Warriors, the film could have stood on its own completely, and the idea still would have been solid as like a follow-up to, and then it would have felt more at least like an anthology series and less like, you know, wow, you're just going to kill all these kids off who kicked Freddy's butt. It just felt like it undermined Dream Warriors for me, which, you know, some of them already die, and that already was like, oh, like it watching it for the first time. I didn't realize how many of them, you know, ate it. I really didn't.
Well,
but I know it's to be expected in a slasher film, but my point was like, you know, it's the Dream Warriors, and I guess I expected it to be the final, like, all right, we're all gonna gang up and kick his ass, and they did, but they still all, like, most of them died.
Well, there's a lot to break down there. Yeah, you know what? I never thought about it that way. As you said, like you could probably take out all the Dream Warriors and just have Patricia Arquette there, and everything would still happen. That's kind of it. In that, yeah, that kind of makes it a little disappointing. It almost kind of makes 4 almost a remake. However,
she is the Dream Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, slasher movies do this literally. No, because what makes Alice special is the fact that she is the Dream Master. It's not.
That's what I mean.
Patricia Arquette, that's the Dream. She just.
I know, but she could have been.
That's what makes it different. No,
she could have been. They could have written it that way.
Yeah,
they could have written it that way, and I feel like it would have been. I feel like that's what the script for Nightmare 4 was before Patricia Arquette said no. Or that's what they offered to do to the script for her.
It could be.
If she would return, because she still said no, right? I mean, I think they offered her more and more things until it was just like,
yeah,
okay, no,
she
not
was like, well, she wanted to be a thespian. So she wanted, as in the documentary serves, it's like, yeah, she wanted to move in to serious acting. And being in horror at that time, no, I can't blame her for that. No. The person that they got to replace her was jarring. Because it was so fucking obvious. That's like, this is not Patricia Arquette. Like,
oh, I know, Tuesday Night. But I love, I mean, that song is
like
iconic. Come on, and I mean, she did well with what she had. Realistically,
oh, definitely. And I if they would have gave her more screen time, of course, they killed her off. I mean, I think pretty sure that's pretty much how it works. Because even if you remember the Scream trilogy, one of the rules is if you come back for the sequel, it's fair game.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's true.
So I mean, that's part of the rules.
Like, I have to say, Nightmare 4 stands as the best Freddy death ever shot on film, in my opinion. And I wish, like next to the original.
No, not even the original.
Is pretty iconic. Well, the man was on fire for longer than any man should have been on fire.
That's
you know what I mean.
True. That's true. I'll give you that for stunt work. But I mean, as far as aesthetic,
I love the hands coming out of the kid fucking vomiting at him. What is that even? What?
Yeah, I love the hands coming out of them, and they grab them and rip them apart, and that's really cool. But I also like number 5. Number 5, where the kid literally barfs out the souls, and they like attach themselves to him.
The best part of 5's death was when the soul of Krueger, in my opinion, this is the best part of the death, when he gets trapped inside of his mother and the claw comes out and she's like, leave.
I was like, well, Freddy's never gonna die.
Yeah, and I liked that. I was like, you know what?
Except for the next film where it's Freddy's dead.
where they kill him with a pipe bomb.
With a pipe bomb.
After all this time.
But at least they paid homage to the first one, and they brought him out to make him human.
Well, and can I tell you that I enjoy the idea of Freddy having a daughter. I think it's so fucked up, and I love that. And I love all the flashback scenes. It was such a good concept. and they
Bad
just
execution.
horrible execution. And also the film felt like two
execution.
movies stitched together. The first half with the kids getting murdered, with Breckin Meyer and, you know, Roseanne and Tom Arnold's cameo, all that shit. That's like a whole different movie. And then once they move to the city, it becomes this claustrophobic, a little bit more atmospheric, but then all of a sudden the 3D glasses come into play. Yeah, oh my god.
It was a terrible. It was a mishmash of so many different scripts, and no fault. What's her name? Rachel. She directed Halele. No, I mean she seems like a really, really beautiful woman, but you shouldn't have directed this movie. You turned, and I'm pretty sure if she thinks about it now, it's like it was a little too cartoony. Like Freddy.
That's what they've all said.
It was a cartoon. It was a
except
Looney
Robert Englund,
Tunes. He was like, yeah, I like this. I like that one. It was like,
he has fun
not
in every.
really how he would have done it, but
No.
he just loves the character, right? He loves being that character.
And oh my god, oh my god. And that's why I'm like, you can't ignore what came before, because those are still brilliant concepts. Like the Dream Master and the Dream Child are really cool and interesting concepts. You can't ignore those moving forward. And but all horror movie franchises did kind of reach that point, you know, where they, especially in the 90s, where they were losing steam. So they were like, oh man, we can't do, you know what, we just need to like remove ourselves. We need to remove ourselves from the franchise within the franchise and do something different. But it always was like, oh, God, this was your idea of different. I mean, sometimes it was cool, and it's always a cool concept, like Freddy's Dead, like we've said. I mean, it was a mishmash of scripts, and some of those scripts had really interesting concepts, like Freddy having a daughter, and, you know, the town of Springwood being all adults with psychosis now. That's really interesting. These were all interesting narrative threads that were just horribly, horribly executed. And same with, like, Jason X, for example. That's a franchise that needed a you know, and so they were like, what can we do? Toss Jason in space. All right, let Adam Shankman do it. Just let him do it. Who cares? We have the money, what little money we need to produce this venture, and we'll let them do it. And yeah, they did. And every franchise did that. So that's kind of what Freddy's Dead represents to me for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
That's what all franchises do. I mean, these franchises are not they're not trying to make a coherent story. It's like, I would love to go back and read all of those scripts that got tossed away for Freddy's Dead, because there were a couple of script ideas in there that was actually sounded pretty cool. Like there was Peter Jackson's script idea where he came in and thought, like, hey, let's take Freddy and bring, like, people go into the, like, I thought that was a little far-fetched to kind of just, okay, a little out there, but it was an interesting thread. It was an interesting thing to see on screen, where they would actually, like, kids would go into the dreams to kick him and be on him, because he's become such a caricature of himself.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's a parody of slasher villains. Like, after that, he just became this Looney Tune, this cartoon character, and
right, and
this would have put more fear into him.
Exactly. Well, restored. It would have restored,
or at least restored the fear, because I was not afraid of Freddy in Freddy's Dead. There was no fear left in.
No, when he wheels out the spikes, that's it. You know what I mean? It was really Wes Craven's New Nightmare that re-solidified any sort of fear in the Freddy character. And, like, it was kind of an interesting, like, double punch of, you know, okay, we got Freddy's Dead, and then all of a sudden Wes Craven comes back to do his final New Nightmare that really just took meta text on, like, and meta horror to a whole new level. You know what I mean? Like, that was brilliant.
New Nightmare was the precursor to Scream.
Yeah,
It was
no, exactly.
New Nightmare was about making horror films,
Yeah,
and what Scream was about fans who watch horror films,
right.
and that's what New Nightmare was so. That's why it was so impactful, because it was this idea of mashing together, that meta text, that idea of watching the horror and feeling scared about a creature that's going to come through your nightmares again to come and get you.
Right.
And I love that. I loved it. That movie, when I first saw it, scared the hell out of me.
Yeah,
There was like a certain jump scare. The first time that you saw Freddy, when he jumped out of the closet. I was fucking terrified. I screamed. And then when I knew, I was like, okay, this is a good movie. This movie's right there. You scared the shit out of me. You turned Freddy back into a creature that.
So it's like, I don't know. It takes you back to like Nightmare 2, when he was, and just Nightmare 1 and 2, I should say, because Nightmare 2 came after 1, and I mean, he's still creepy as hell in 1. Speaking of which, my uncle Jonathan, who is a professor at McDaniel College in Maryland, he sent me a film review he wrote back before he was a film student, and so he was this amateur film critic, and he reviewed A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. He saw it in a small theater, and he one of my favorite bits of alliteration is copiously copulating couples, because he's comparing it to the Friday the 13th franchise, and what elements it borrows from that at the time. And I mean, he's writing when in the 80s, and when these movies are coming out. He has since stated, he said, this is really early, me trying to use language that I thought a film critic should use, and so it's not, and he loves the Nightmare films, or at least the first Nightmare on Elm Street. But he gave it a pretty good raking over, I'd say.
Shit.
And that's the thing. He's pioneered the film program at McDaniel College, and he's really a well accomplished now documentary filmmaker. And I just he's always kind of been my inspiration when it comes to film and it being an actual like accomplishable goal. You know what I mean? And knowing somebody who has followed that passion in their life has really allowed me to feel like, okay, I can do this.
I can do this.
I mean?
That's, you know what? I know exactly what you mean, because that's how I feel. I feel like it's just a matter of just, going for it now. That's it. I've come to a point in time in my life where I think, you know what? I have enough confidence to say that I'm capable of proceeding into my dreams and passions. Now it's just a matter
dreams. You say
go for it. Dreams, yes. Yes, and the only thing that is stopping me is this demon inside my dreams that keeps trying to kill me.
Yeah, man.
And tell me that I am not capable of actually doing what I am passionate about. But here I am today, and we are doing it, my friend. We are doing it.
Damn straight. That's why somebody needs to make a new Nightmare film where Freddy isn't the main villain anymore. You know what I'm saying? You take Jacob from Nightmare 5. He's an older man, not old. He's like in his late 30s, maybe mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s. We could push it. Maybe we could push it. We could cast like a Carl Urban figure.
Get the same Jacob. Get the guy. He's still. He's a character actor,
and he looks really creepy still.
But I've seen him. He's a character actor, and
I know it. Yeah,
he's a funny character actor too. He can do. He does comedy and stuff like that. I enjoy him. So
I recognize.
Get him back for another Nightmare.
Maybe we'll think about it. We'll reach out to him. But you bring back Jacob.
He doesn't need our piddly money. Yeah, I would say bring back Jacob.
He can have a cameo. He can be like a demonic version of Jacob, and then there'll be a night, like a normal looking version.
Normal.
Jacob would be the keeper of Springwood, which is this abandoned town, and this crew of maybe students or whoever shows up to try and disprove the Freddy Krueger myth, because it's been it's been decades, and it's like this long-held myth, and they're like, "There's no way a dream demon exists. Like that's stupid. Like, are you
It
kidding
has
me?
to be found footage.
There has to be at least, if not the whole film, then yeah, bits. I'm serious. I think it has, like, you know, you have to have at least elements of it.
How are you gonna do a found footage?
That's the whole point, right? Because I mean, you're that way too. You're not. Well, and it could be. Who knows? I mean, that, and you could play with things so much more from an audience's perspective in that way.
Yeah.
I stand by the Blair Witch. I will always stand by the Blair Witch as actually
I gotta be wrong.
Film.
I love found footage.
You sounded like a doubter. You sounded like a doubter.
No, I'm not a doubter. You just can't do Nightmare on Elm Street as a found footage. You can put in elements of found footage, sure.
That's what I'm saying.
But you cannot bring a camera into your dreams.
No, and that's why I'm saying the whole film couldn't be found footage, but you could definitely have chunks of it that are sequences that are that take place in and around the Thompson house when they go there, and the rest could be told narratively. And some of the moments with Jacob would probably be found footage too, like some of the initial supernatural moments, because it would be like a camera trick, right? And you could do some really interesting and creepy stuff with that, I think, in found footage. But I do agree. I think narratively, the film would have to be a traditional film, you know, in terms of how the story unfolds, really. But you could use pieces of found footage as part of your scares, and definitely as a way to revitalize some of those aspects of Nightmare that I think seem a little too far-fetched or hokey now. Like, think about how much creepier it would be to see a face come out of a wall in found footage as opposed to the old-fashioned way now. You know what I mean? But still practical.
Would be so much better. Yeah, well, it has to be still practical.
Because even watching the behind the scenes, like it's creepy still to look.
Yeah. Oh, that whole scene was perfect. It was aesthetically done. Even in New Nightmare, when he did it again.
I know. Oh,
God. The reboot was terrible. Way too much CGI. No, it was so bad. But
they didn't even try to make it not CGI.
I know. Like, come on. The effect was brilliant the first time around. Why would you put it as CGI? Just because you had the budget?
Like, that was the problem with that reboot. It was they gave them too much money, and they blew it on all this stuff they didn't need. Literally.
Yeah.
Because all you needed was and they didn't use oh my God, I almost called him Robert Englund. They didn't use Jackie Earle Haley enough. He could have done so much more.
I loved him in Watchmen. In Watchmen, he has such depth, and he could. And the thing is, when he was on screen, he was believable. He was scary,
captivating.
Then he was very, very captivating. Yeah. So I have something to ask you.
Okay.
Because we've kind of got way further than we should. So let's go to part 5.
Okay.
Let's
Dream Child.
Let's Dream Child. Dream Child since we're talking about Jacob, let's segue back. As a follow-up to 4, how do you feel? How do you feel about introducing that Alice as a mother and Jacob and that bit?
I actually really liked it. I felt bad for the producers who seem to think that the like child element was I mean, normally I would say in any horror franchise it's super hokey and terrible. You know what I mean? Son of and it wasn't, because that's the thing. It wasn't really Freddy's kid, but I mean everybody treats it like that. But it wasn't. It was still Dan's child. It was just Freddy manipulating, feeding its souls so he could eventually inhabit its body, basically. At least that's how I understood it. Because, I mean, he needed a physical vessel to... I got the sense in that film that he was very much trying to break out into the real world again, which was definitely different for him. If you think about it, it was kind of a narrative evolution on Freddy's part, at least in that sense. I don't really know what his goal was beyond that. Get out of Alice, and then I mean, I think the idea would be to live within Jacob, I guess, and continue to kill people around Jacob wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because they're the last, right? It's the
Yeah.
last of the Elm Street. By this time, the last of the Elm Street. He has to find a way. Because even in like number 6, that's kind of the premise is that he needed to break out of Springwood in order to, because he's somehow landlocked into Springwood. That's the one thing about the reboot I did like. He wasn't landlocked to this one geological location. Like he could go and haunt that one of those other kids' dreams as they killed him. So I kind of like that.
I think only makes sense, right? Like, I mean, the invisible magical barrier holding him within Springwood, just like,
Well, I kind of get it in like ghost logic terms. Ghosts can't really travel past their death, but I mean,
place of death.
I don't know. Is Freddy a ghost or is Freddy now more of a demon? Like at this point,
those little
like he has enough power to keep coming back.
Those little fish things that fly out of him, the dream demons that gave him his power, came to him and were like, Freddy, we know you're evil. Do you want more power? And that's apparently what demons look like, floating gulper eels. Fantastic.
I don't remember that in the prequel.
Yeah, exactly.
That's never happening.
I bet that doesn't happen in the prequel. I thought, and you know what? I was watching a fan film the other day that did it in a way that I thought was really interesting. And was really cool. The Dream Demon, it was a low-budget fan film, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the Dream Demon was a woman with, like, she had, like, dark circle eye makeup and, like, she kind of, I think her wrists were slit and, like, she just looked really
like
cool.
A witch.
Yeah, and she came out of the darkness. Things kind of became dreamlike as the fire, like, slowly dissipated, and then, like, it was just those two. And then she offers him his power. Or the glove. She hands him the glove, and I was like, whoa, like, that's actually an interesting way to do it.
That is an interesting. I like that.
At least more interesting, you know?
It's better than, like, 3 floating heads that look like little tiny sperms.
I like... There's so much that happens.
Freddy, let me enter you and give you my power.
Yeah, like, what? What? Because it doesn't explain anything either. It explains by explaining nothing, and it's terrible. If you're going to explain it, just...
We should have just did a podcast on Freddy's Diddle.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, back to number 5.
But Dream Child, because that one also has the most...
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say chaotic set design. Infamously.
Let's speak about that production. That production was completely... Like, I'm surprised that production came out the way it did. Like, it was a solid movie. It's a good movie under the chaos of what they had to put up with. I mean, they were building sets upon sets, and the intricacy of those sets, like, everything was just huge and gothic, and they were building these sets while they were filming.
God bless Lisa Wilcox for just being so casual about it all, though. Like, the whole time.
Crazy.
Either she was having, like... I mean, I'm sure she was getting paid well, though, you know, and she got to be the new lead of the franchise, essentially, for at least 2 films, so...
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure she's still fondly remembered right up there with Nancy now, so...
Oh,
you know.
Yeah.
It's like...
I think I know somebody that would probably argue with us on that one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I also feel like Jesse deserves a higher ranking up there. Like, he should be right up there, in my opinion.
Oh, he should
be right on the pedestal.
The person I'm thinking about is just, you know, Nancy all the way. Well, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Nancy all the way. I mean, she's brilliant. Heather Langenkamp is just brilliant. But
that being said, that's another narrative thread you could play on for a sequel. And now I feel like Danny McBride and David Gordon Green developing, you know, their new Halloween. Just like, oh, these characters people forgot. What about, you know, like, you know,
that's a dream. David Gordon Green taking on the Freddy franchise. That'd be so wicked.
But and this is my other point. The Dream Child leaves the franchise in a point where, you know, I like that I liked its ending better than every other ending in that specific shot where Freddy is trapped in his mother's, you know, soul.
It's still there, you know,
because he's still there.
Sense. Yeah.
And it's
It
basically
may
like
even make sense for like Freddy versus Jason, right?
and that's what, yeah, even if you wanted to narratively just skip over Freddy's dead, and because I mean you basically have to make sense of Freddy versus Jason. It's like, yeah, he was always still down there in hell. It's just and he finally found a way out again, and it was Jason. There you go, bada bing, easy peasy, A to B. But if you think about Freddy's dead too much, it hurts a lot.
Well, yeah. Don't think about Freddy's dead too much.
But on that same point, I would still somehow have to find a way to keep it within canon if I were to do my idea for a sequel reboot, I think. So I think to ignore it even would be a disservice to the series.
You could do a fan film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of, it's probably what it's going to be really at the end of the day, but I mean...
It'd be a concept fan film.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. I wouldn't mind playing with those characters a little bit.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just so many concepts and ideas you can always... The franchise only just touches upon, and I feel like this happens often in horror because it's horror, right? I mean, you don't...
Yeah.
Horror. Because you don't want fatigue to happen, and in the case of Freddy, you don't want your character to become the joke.
And that's a
constant joke. But I still found Freddy, like, it's just the jokes went on too long in Freddy's Dead. You know what I mean? Like, if you had kept everything, like way too, and too cartoonish, exactly like you said, and like Rachel.
I mean, they literally went into a cartoon, into a video game.
When Breckenmeyer is bouncing up and down, like, it was bad enough having Freddy being like, "Now you're playing with power."
That's a dad joke in there too. Oh. It's not even a good joke; it's a dad joke.
I got a power glove. Oh my god! And the fact that they weren't even allowed, like they to this day, they still haven't been sued by Nintendo, but probably because Nintendo's like, you know what, our audience it's not going to watch that. It's fine.
It's like, terrible. Yeah.
Like,
if anything, it helped them sell more power gloves.
Realistically, no, you're right. You're right. Right. So I mean, yeah, that's why my
Freddy
favorite
has a power glove.
Yeah, exactly. That's why my favorite episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd is his Power Glove episode, because he does, and his Nightmare on Elm Street, because he does his whole horror video game series is great. But
God, yeah,
taking that in
combination, it's just so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to expand my horizons, especially after Class with Monica, from just cis hetero white men. But on the other hand, you know, that's mostly what YouTube has been rocking for a while. So
that's the entertainment industry, cis hetero white men.
True. I wrote a paper on it.
I'm a cis white man. I guess. I don't know. What's cis again?
Cis means that you are the gender that you identify with.
I identify
and you are comfortable.
Non-binary.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You're a non-binary.
I'm a non-conformist. I don't conform
to labels and categories and the like. No, but you know, on the other hand,
I'm not kidding though.
No, I know. I'm not. Yeah, exactly.
That's not a joke.
Yeah, it's just like, no, but seriously.
Yeah.
But seriously, exactly.
But seriously.
And neither is Freddy, right? I mean, he doesn't conform to society standards. I mean, when he eats the faces of the kids off that pizza in, what was it, 4?
It's soul food.
And then just, and I was like, oh, no. And then the cockroach scene. The cockroach scene was horrifying.
Okay. Well, that's where I wanted to go. I want to go
so cool, though.
Because the deaths were amped up from the other ones. They were so much better than just slashing, slicing, and dicing. They were very imaginative. The cockroach scene was fantastic. Like, her arms just...
It's like, oh...
Oh, and you know what? Power to her to go through all that makeup job and having to do that. I mean, stick her face in like that glue. And
I know.
I was like, after that, I'm like, holy crap.
The whole effect was
that
brilliant.
was great. That effect was awesome, and that's number 5, isn't it? No,
I believe the cockroach is 5. Yes, because that's also when Dan dies, right?
Yeah, and which is also even.
I was gonna say the motorcycle kill that you mentioned in part
and
1. Wow.
And that scene they cut out most of the stuff.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because they were talking about in the documentaries, like a lot of stuff, a lot of the pulling and actually going inside was like
got cut in the theatrical version. I felt so bad. Yeah. Like that's so much work, as they pointed out, that just got thrown out.
Oh, it was so awesome too! Like just seeing his skin split and every single all this stuff attaching itself to him, and he just becomes like the Iron Man. That's what they called him. It's like,
well, yeah, I was gonna, but that suit, yeah, and then by the end, right, with he looks like a metal monstrosity. It was
that was fantastic,
fascinating effect.
In 4, what is your favorite kill in 4?
My favorite kill in 4. Oh no, Debbie is the cockroach. Rick is Alice's twin brother who gets killed in the dojo. Sheila is the black girl. I'm so like, and oh my god,
Toy Newkirk. Her name's Toy Newkirk. Sheila.
4 was tough for me. I don't know if I had a favorite death so much as I just appreciated the story with Alice, and I think my favorite death in the film is Freddy's death. At the end.
Yeah.
Because it's just it visually appeals to me so much to see. Like why I love that death so much is because it's so vindicating to see Freddy literally torn apart by the souls that he preyed upon for so many years. To me, it just felt like a final release of all of that pent up, like, no, this is a horrible, horrible man, and he deserves to die horribly for what he's done. Like, he should not be allowed to continue to kill children. We should not be rooting for this man or laughing at his jokes. He deserves to be torn, literally. His skin should be ripped from his goddamn body while he's still awake.
Yeah, you know what? I have to agree with that. I mean, that's a perfect way to end it. And now you convinced me that is not my favorite.
I will, and because that poor little
that symbolism is perfect.
Yeah, well, and because that poor little Japanese makeup artist fell off the rig while the rig they constructed of Freddy's chest, and literally, like, you know, she survived. Thankfully, everyone survived. But goddamn, that thing was huge. It looked like it could have killed somebody. It's like, whew. In the documentary, I should add for context for people listening instead of watching or whatever.
Listening, watching, doing whatever we're doing. I don't know. For teen death, I mean, it would have to be Sheila. The
robot hand,
like, you want to suck face, and he sucks the life out of her. Because Rick's death was terrible. And invisible karate chopping that was like completely made up on the spot.
I love that because they had run out of money, so they were like, "Shit, what are we gonna do? Hang some stuff, and we'll make it look like Japan generally." And that's not racist at all. Also, Rennie Harlan being like, "No, I never said anything to Toy about making herself sound more black. I never said that." And Toy's like, he can deny it all he wants, but it happened. He came up and apologized afterward and said he understood why he was wrong. But I mean, if he says he didn't do it, like, I mean, that's him. So
you're an idiot.
So
thank you. That's sketchy at best.
Yeah, no kidding. Dude who directed Cliffhanger doesn't want his reputation ruined. Just saying. No, but that, you know what, I think that's fair in terms of teen deaths. Although 4 is also the cockroach, so you know that's tough.
Yes.
They blew their money on the cockroach and the robot hand in the desk.
Greta is in 5.
Yes.
Greta.
Stuffed. I liked. You know what I like about
I
5?
mash my teeth.
Yeah. Oh my god. I loved that whole like, even though it was a really weak commentary on like fashion culture and like
Hmm.
high society, blah blah blah. What I really like about 5 as well is just all of and well 4 and 5 are all of Freddy's costume changes. Like he just has so many, like we start adding little things like sunglasses in 4,
Yep.
and then by the time you get to 5, he's in full blown like maitre d attire. I'm like, nice.
You've got to make these dreams look real, and product placement has to be there as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time you get to Freddy's Dead, it's like, okay, the franchise is riding off of product placement. But
Oh yeah.
um, on the other hand, Nintendo didn't pay them for any of that, so that's not even
Yeah,
really
Nintendo was like,
technically.
no. Bob Shea was like, screw them. We're using
Yeah.
it.
And see, this is the thing. So actually, kind of flying in the face of product placement, what this franchise has accomplished is nothing short of, as much as we want to sit here and say Bob Shea is an asshole, what he has accomplished with his wife or ex-wife probably is monumental. It's monumental. You can't.
I will give him that. I will give him that. Like I said in part one, I'm sure he's a fantastic guy, but as a businessman, yeah, he's cutthroat. Like he's a guy who's just like, I'm gonna get shit done. And
he did what he wanted to do, right?
Yeah, he did what he wanted to do, and I don't know if that was necessarily right.
It was at the expense of some people's. Right. Like there are questions of morality, of course, and whose toes you step on to get where you got to go.
I mean, if you're hiring people that tell your actress, be more black, that's some questionable judgment right there.
If your first instinct when you're lead actor of your successful horror franchise is to say, "Oh, any idiot in a rubber mask can do it," and hire a new guy. Like, can you imagine how different this whole franchise would have been? Well, it would have failed that too. It would have stopped.
Totally. If it wasn't for Robert Englund, this franchise was over.
Like
that's it.
He's also just he is just genuinely a brilliant actor, and you needed somebody in that role who could do it. You know what I mean? You needed somebody who could bring it.
Not only just somebody who is patiently sitting there, getting all that makeup put on their face, going through the trouble, doing the stunts, like this guy went over, above, and beyond for this character. Where a lot of actors today probably wouldn't put up with that shit. I mean, a lot of actors that are out of the Marvel game now are like, I will never do a Marvel movie again. The intensity, the crap that they had to go through, that like as part
Hugo
of
Weaving
is insane.
Yeah, well, Hugo Weaving is a really classic example when it comes to makeup specifically, because for the Red Skull makeup, I mean, he notoriously, immediately after for the first Avenger, he said, "Oh my God, I'm never effing doing this again," blah, blah, blah. But then in recently, he softened way up. But he couldn't do Infinity War or Endgame because it was like, first of all, that is such a minor part, and as an actor who's kind of in fairly high demand still. I mean, he's doing other stuff.
He's Hugo Weaving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just pay him a day rate to come in and put on Red Skull makeup and say like 3 lines. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna make him sit there and put that makeup on, you got to pay him well, first of all, and it better be worth it. You know what I mean?
It wasn't worth it. It's like back on Robert Englund. Like, as soon as he was done filming his scenes for the day, he would just walk in and just.
Oh, I loved that. Yeah. That reminded me so much of after every Hairspray rehearsal, at the end of every, curtain close, and all the bows are done, everyone's leaving, everyone's gone. Just all the makeup wipes, all the freaking it was just beautiful stripping costumes, all of our sweaty bodies, just half naked to each other, because who cares? We're a theater group. We're not. I mean, we were teenagers, so it's not like hormones weren't a thing, but, as a performer.
You're a theater group. You're a performer.
Exactly. You're a professional, and it's not weird.
Well, of course not. I mean, literally, you're under all this goop, and you're on stage. You got all these lights, and I mean, these are 13, 14-hour days inside of this makeup and costume. I don't blame Robert Englund for just ripping it off at the end of the day. That's the first. I just try to get it off too.
But that's why I also think
of the shell.
How much fun would it be as an actor to have that? Like, I don't know. For me as an actor, at least in the few films that I've been in so far, it's like there is nothing better. And even on stage, this is true too. There is nothing better than a good costume and good makeup, because it just really, really brings it all together. Like, you feel liberated to give the performance you want to give by the makeup on you, because it's like, oh yeah, this is it. This is me. I'm Freddy Krueger now.
Like, is there that line where you cross when you become that character? Like, you feel like when you hit the stage that you're no longer yourself, you are this other person.
I mean, for me, I have to say, like, you kind of have to do that. There's a point where you have to lose yourself in the character a little bit to be in the moment and give the best performance, at least to me. Which is why, as much as I admire Robert Englund's performance over the years, and I think he's like it's amazing, and he's iconic. I think there's also a certain level of, is he okay? You have to wonder. You do have to wonder his ability to give the incredible performance he does has to rely on finding that character. And as much as you can get the anger of wanting to kill some kids maybe from sitting in the makeup chair, you don't get that same motivation to play a maniac wandering around a room of 1,000 sweaty or 100 sweaty dudes playing the father of this maniac who rapes a nun. You don't get that. You don't get that from killing the mother of your child in front of the child after she's just discovered your rape and murder dungeon. Like, there are some serious psychological questions to ask of Robert.
I love this character, yeah.
And then you know, to be like so attached to this character.
There's got to be a line. I mean, there's got to be a way. Like, yeah, it's play pretend. You know, that's what it is. And like, some people have to play the villain, and you have to take on those roles, and that's part of the job, right? It puts into those questions of morality. Where's the physical line between, you know, what a character you're playing and the actual real person? I don't think Robert Englund is. No,
God, no. I would, and I think
he probably. Actually, I'm pretty sure he enjoyed making out with all those teenagers.
I definitely,
his tongue down their throat.
if anything, and see, this is the thing. If anything, and this is still problematic, and that's why it's not something we can't explore. Like, I'm not going to crack open that whole can of worms right now, but what I am going to say, and this will be a definitive statement on this, and I'll let publications quote me on this, THR, TMZ, you know, the New York Times, everybody should be quoting me. No, I'm just kidding. Don't quote me, but quote me. Don't do it. Maybe.
Okay, I'll quote you.
I think everything else about Robert Englund is fine. I'm sure, and in his private life, I mean, I think he's a very nice man. Even in interviews, like, just really cordial and just really cool. I think he's a really cool dude. But I do think he really did enjoy and get a kick out of being the big kahuna on set, and I think he may have enjoyed kissing a lot of younger women a little too much here and there, and I also think he may have, like, even the moments when he was like, yeah, I remember on number 3, you know, everyone had a crush on Patricia, and you know, the boys kept coming to me for advice as if I was dating her, and I was like, don't say that out loud. You can think that, but I don't want to hear that, man, you know, because that makes it, you sounded very
rapey there, yeah.
just very, like, you know,
creepy, yeah.
Groomish, you know. It's not even necessarily rapey, it's very groomy, which, you know, maybe statutory rapey in that case,
maybe.
But yeah, there was just, you definitely get the sense that he enjoyed being on set and being liked.
He was a jokester. He probably just it was probably just a lot of fun.
And he's a social guy.
I would not demonize him in any sort of way.
No, and I'm really. I
don't think he comes up to that.
No. I don't think it's really.
And a lot of us can say that.
These little things are still important.
These weren't young girls either. I mean, they were over the age of 18.
But
I remember how old Patricia.
A lot of them were older, but
was.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, because here's the thing. Like, there's a rule in Hollywood that if you're under the age of 18, you can't act for more than a couple hours a day, right?
That's
for
true.
So many hours. Like, I think it's like 4 hours a day. This is why a lot of productions hire over the age of 18 to 18 and up girls, because they can. Then you don't have to go through that rule, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why you see a lot of older like 18 to 20-year-olds playing younger parts, because they can shoot as long as they need to.
Right.
There's that to think about.
Yeah. Like what I really enjoyed actually learning about Robert Englund in the documentary was just how much he just doesn't shut up. Like, he just literally will just talk. Like, he can I just watched from 7 years ago, him and Heather Langenkamp revisited the original house from the first movie for E.T. online, and literally before he can it's still there. At least it was 7 years ago. This was 7 years ago, so I mean, it could not be now. But it's probably a landmark now. Like, they probably if people don't live there, and I would hope not, honestly.
It's the Freddy Museum house.
Yeah, exactly. Probably. But anyway, Langenkamp kept jumping in ahead before Robert could, because you could tell. Yeah, because you could tell she was so used to traveling around conventions with him and not being able to get a word in edgewise. So she's just like, yeah, and as he's about to be like, well, and then he'd just be like, and listen really intently, because he's a nice guy. So he's also not the kind of person who's going to try and talk over anybody. Yeah. So it was just really funny to watch him, like, constrained on screen. Until he was like, On the other hand,
Heather's here. She's not going to let me talk.
Yeah, exactly. On the other hand, her face was totally like, you've already told this story a million times. I won't listen to it again, Robert.
That was also in the documentary with the makeup artists.
Yeah, literally. We were told to just go in and not let him talk. Just get right to work. I loved that. I was like, can you imagine? Just start grabbing your face. They're just like, nope, not even listening. Like, Jesus, Robert, shut your trap. No, but I mean, that's like, there's just, in watching the documentary, it gave me such an appreciation for everything that has involved Freddy, even through Freddy versus Jason, which, I mean, in the last part we said we're going to do a separate episode for, which I think probably is a good idea anyway, because it encompasses two franchises.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it probably goes to that. What did we hit? We hit New Nightmare.
Yep.
I think we hit them all of them. Is there anything else?
I haven't watched the Freddy series, and I want to, but I haven't.
No.
And
I don't think you can. That's the thing. It's like
it's hard to find, yeah. So apparently, supposedly is what I was gonna say. I was like,
it's somewhere on the dark web.
Yeah. Great. Even better. No.
Yeah.
I mean, we have timed access. Also, I'm sure the dark web is overloaded now too.
All
sorts of brand new travelers.
People are bored. Yeah. It's like, so I never had time to surf the dark web.
Yeah.
I have time now.
No, I've heard of this web of the dark. What is it? I must uncover its secrets. No, I really think, though, at the end of the day, the best way to do another Nightmare film is to take Jordan Peele's, kind of Jordan Peele and David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's direction, and just say, you know what, we're going to stick in canon, and we're going to do something fresh with it still, and show that you can, because it's a challenge. That's what's exciting about it. It's almost a challenge, right?
Yeah, I have to say, if they're going to do it that way, don't ignore every single, maybe you could ignore Freddy's Dead, sure. but I would not
Wow.
ignore 4 and 5 at all. I really, you know, because narratively, there's something there that you could continue. You don't have to go back to Heather. Heather's dead. You can leave her down. She's had New Nightmare. You know, something that whole line is kind of over. I don't think you have to ignore everything. You know, not like
Right.
because even with Halloween, I did not like the fact that they ignored number 2 because because number 2 in Halloween
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was a continuation of the narrative, and those narrative elements were in there, and I like that idea, and just especially like H2O as we've discussed before, H20 or whatever I call it, H2O. I don't know why, but it's a nice bookend, right?
Exactly.
Where now, okay, I'm okay with what they're doing now, like saying, okay, we'll take it out. They should have just left number 2 there and then had this new one as a nice bookend or a continuation. They can bookend the whole thing. I hope if they're gonna go through that with Freddy, then I would definitely seize the narrative opportunities with 4 and 5.
Well, and I wouldn't say, and that's kind of why. Yeah, and that's why I kind of thought that's the right place to start in terms of where you look for plot threads that have been dropped to kind of pick back up in interesting ways. That's why I thought Jacob is like this almost like Springwood Scarecrow, you know, the last remaining citizen. Alice is dead, man. She'd be dead.
Alice is dead? No.
Yeah. Maybe she's trapped in some sort of spirit realm, but she's dead. Maybe she helps the protagonist somehow.
Do the Jamie Lee Curtis thing. You know, make her like kind of PSD, kind of post-traumatic stress, like what she did to Jacob was like, you know, house him in a fucking bunker because Freddy was like keeps coming back and keeps trying to get him, and then there's just this.
But I'm attracted to the idea of Freddy still being inside Jacob.
Well, you definitely needed to have Jacob's first kill be Alice then.
And maybe that's what it is, you know.
Yeah.
But
it's like Freddy finally wins, takes over Jacob.
Because it's like, well, yeah, that was the whole that was the conceit really of my initial idea anyway, was that Freddy won in 5 actually, and what you saw was because realistically what we did see was that he is still alive and that Alice truly will never be able to escape. Honestly, that was the suggestion by the end of that film to me, especially by the fact that she still hallucinates, right? Like, I mean, it's just going to start again. There is no escape. Yeah. So that's also how you make Freddy again a scary figure, is by, you know, showing that he's not just Freddy anymore either. I think having Jacob be the body, I think kind of playing off of that idea into, which is actually a brilliant idea, having Freddy possess a human body, because you can suggest so many visual elements of Freddy's character without actually having Robert Englund in the role. But that way too, you could still have a voiceover later in the film / the appearance of an actual Freddy like figure or Freddy himself somehow. I wouldn't want it to be a direct shot on, like, I wouldn't be like your traditional shot of Freddy, you know what I mean? We're talking like using them like the shark and Jaws here, if we want to talk screen time and actual visual. That's Freddy for sure, 100%. I can see him dead on, you know what I mean? You wouldn't get a lot of that, but you definitely get a lot of, you know, scary shit nonetheless, and a lot of you know, stuff happening to characters that is clearly being manipulated by Freddy, but you know, you don't have to see Freddy all the time for that either, not even to see claws, you know what I mean?
So, no claws. Shadows of claws.
Exactly. Well, lots of shadows. You play with shadows too, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the silhouette is a classic part of how the scare works, I guess, you know, when it comes to Freddy. It's I don't know. So that was kind of my approach, I guess. But I it's not that I want to ditch Alice as a character, but I feel like her, you know, the only way for her narrative arc to continue is for it to have some sort of, like, it has to be the end of it, you know what I mean? And then it would be a Jamie. It would just feel like Halloween to me in that way, and I don't like that for Alice especially. I feel like
you don't want to mesh those.
Well, and I think historically,
just,
even, it would be kind of a
yeah.
throwback to the way the franchise has dealt with its heroines as well. But it would also make the
Toss them
ending
aside.
well, kind of, but also it would make the ending of 5 a little more tragic too, because it would suggest that
Yeah,
Alice,
I like it.
you know, she won, but she didn't. And
I like it. I like the idea. I like the idea. Yeah, you got me. You sold me. It's a good idea.
The real question would be,
you're right.
Does it have a happy ending or a sad ending? We don't know yet, but I mean,
well, we got to write it in order to.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you're going to help me write it.
But
you're committing to it live on.
I think at this point in time.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up. It's true.
I think we got to wind down. I don't know what the future is going to bring for us and what we're going to be talking about, but it's up in the air right now of what we're going to talk about next after this. I think you wanted to do Saw, and we want to. But do you want to move away from horror now, or? I
mean, we should probably mix it up for our other casual viewers. Maybe people who don't watch horror. Tayana suggested maybe some Star Trek of some variety.
Star Trek. You got to crack open that whole 10-disc box set there.
Well, exactly. I've already watched First Contact, so we could do. But we can go anywhere. We can go anywhere.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
I kind of want
series.
I kind of want to go back.
You want to do television?
I want to go back to the OG series. I think movies, and I want to.
Yes. Let's talk about Star Trek. The motion picture.
Yes. But I would love, and we were talking about the motion picture in particular, because it's been so long since I've seen it, and it still gets a pretty bum rap. So I'm intrigued to go back in time and see this space probe that got lost and became sentient.
It does not get better with age. It really doesn't. It doesn't. And you know what? There's a reason it gets a bad rap.
As soon as I said that, he's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't say what I was about to say." No, it's fine.
It's terrible. No, it's not terrible. It's just it's too.
Well, we'll see.
There is too many long shots. There is too much long edits. Like, it's just. Well, you know what? I can't wait to do it. We're doing Star Trek. Yep. That's it. Because I'm going to be here for another hour if we start talking about the first movie.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've watched it. Like, I always go back to Khan. So.
Yeah, because that's the easy one. That's the one that's not. You don't have to suffer through parts of that. That's just fun all the way through.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, my name, if you want to find me on the social medias, you can find me at C415. So, where can they find you there, Austin?
You can find me at most social medias at Afrotastic27. And then, of course, you can find us both at High on Hollywood. Both on Facebook, both on Facebook, Instagram, and also for the third on Twitter, because I can't count. And we also exist on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts.
Yes, you could definitely find us on where you get your podcasts. Even
wherever you get your podcasts, we're probably there. Let's be honest. So
yes, we should really definitely think about promoting ourselves.
Well, we're getting finished with school here, and we're getting all wrapped up, done diddly, and then we'll be up on the interwebs like it's we're in everybody's faces every day.
Right now, you're probably you're watching us right now. It's Tuesday, so you'll be listening to us on Wednesday on podcast stations.
And you are watching us on Tuesday right now, if you're watching.
Yeah, if you're watching us on Tuesday on YouTube.
Exactly. Also, speaking of, head on over to my channel, Funnyman519. I started a sit and sing series on Instagram, and I'm just doing karaoke every day. So,
I've been watching those. Those are cool.
Yeah, well, it's just something to pass the time. And I mean, I love singing, so figured I'd just share while I'm doing it. I used to be in musical theater. I used to do stuff. So, I know I don't sound awful all the time.
All right.
Well, thank you for listening and watching.
Thank you for watching.
And we will chat with you next week and get a little high on Hollywood.
Bye.
Bye.